Good evening. Chair calls to order public hearing for Resolution 00726, Master Water and Sewer Plan Update 2026. Good evening, Mr. Dunbeck. How are you?
Good evening. Very well. Yourself?
Well, good. Whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. So the first section we have is tables and grids. Revision number 1 is located at 310 Niles Lane in Falston. Zoned CI, it is shown on grid A4 of the Water and Sewer Service Area maps and is identified as tax map 55, parcel 363. It received site plan approval from the Department of Planning and Zoning on October 10th, 2025 for a 5,000 square foot retail trade service building. They are requesting a sewer category change from the S6 category to the S3 category.
Okay.
Next is Chapter 3, Section 3.15, Table 3-1, Plan Developments. Table 3-1 is a tool used by the Division of Water and Sewer to assess the available demand and capacity of our system with current and past projects that have had approval for development. Commercial and industrial properties without specific uses have been converted to equivalent dwelling units, or EDUs, to easily account for the project's demand and capacity needs. This table was updated to reflect the development activity over the last 6 months for one project. The Grace Hall subdivision has been revised to reflect the water and sewer services connected over the last 6 months. The final page of Table 3-1 shows the revisions to the summary of the remaining residential, business, and industrially zoned units with approved preliminary plans. The net change in residential units was a reduction of 120 units, with 1,439 units remaining. There was no change to the equivalent residential units in a business zone or the industrial acreage zone. The next 2 pages are for Section 3.20, Table 3-8, Planned Waterworks Immediate 5-year and 10-year priorities. This table was updated to reflect projects for the Division of Water and Sewer, as well as requests made by Maryland American, the water provider for the town of Bel Air. The 2 county projects being removed are the Willoughby Beach Road Extension, which was a developer-funded project to extend water to what is now known as the Coppermine Recreation Facility. That facility is a current water and sewer customer, therefore the extension is no longer needed. The 250-foot linear feet of Joppa Road transmission main was evaluated and found to be unnecessary during our 2020 water system study. The timing schedules for the remaining projects have been adjusted, and this table in the workbook only includes projects to which changes are proposed. A comprehensive table showing all capital water projects in the county and the 3 municipalities can be found in Chapter 3 of the overall Water and Sewer Master Plan document. Chapter 4, Section 4.04.07, County Sewage System Treatment Facilities. The Joppatown wastewater treatment plant description is being revised to include information regarding the upgrade to the plant's disinfection process that was completed in 2017. Section 4.14, Table 4.2, Planned Capital Sewer Projects, Immediate 5-year and 10-year priority. The next 2 pages, like the revision for water, were updated to reflect the Division of Water and Sewer Projects, as well as requests made by the town of Bel Air. The timing schedules are being updated, and 1 new county project is being added, the Magnolia Sewer Petition Project. The town of Bel Air requested 1 new project to be added, the Baltimore Pike Pump Station and force main replacement. And again, the table in this workbook includes only projects to where changes are proposed. A comprehensive table showing all sewer projects for the county and the 3 municipalities can be found in Chapter 4 of the overall Water and Sewer Master Plan document. The next 2 pages in the workbook are for Section 4.15, Table 4-3, Discharge Record of Septic Haulers. This was revised to show monthly data for the calendar year of 2025 for all septic hauled to Sod Run wastewater treatment plant. This revision is a standard requirement from the Maryland Department of the Environment to document current data for each spring master plan revision. And the final section in the workbook includes the written request made to Harford County for provisions to be included in the spring 2026 Water and Sewer Master Plan update. That concludes the updates to the spring master plan.
Thank you, Chris. Council, at this time, anyone have any questions? Mr. Giangiordano?
Chris, good evening, thank you very much. Red Pump Crescent, table 3.1, says 46 units, but I understand that's still on the forced delineation plan, and there's been nothing, so how did they get to 46?
So for this table for 3-1 is specifically for water and sewer to account for any past or current projects. It's basically a placeholder for us that when
Okay.
we see new development come back at the same property, we know what we allotted for that at the time that it was approved.
Okay, so when it was originally approved, like back in 2014, that's what
Yes,
they're based off?
that 46 lots refers to the plan that was approved in 14.
Okay, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
we talked about that today. Can you bring us up to date? That plan has expired?
The 2014, yes.
Yes,
The-
okay.
You'd have to ask planning and zoning, but it's 1.5 to 2 years, something like that, the preliminary and site plans last for.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Bennett?
Just a quick practical question, going back to revision 1. What does it mean to move from S6 to S3 from like a use perspective?
So in order for a category change to be made to the S3, an approved plan has to happen. For construction drawing to be approved, it has to be in the category 3. So this property had site plan approval back in October of '25, so they are able to ask for a request to move to the 3. If they decide they're going to make the sewer infrastructure that they need to serve this property, they need to have it in an S3 category for us to approve the construction drawing.
And does that mean more use, less use, or allowable use?
It's, the categories are year expectations of when the construction's going to happen. So a 3 category is 0 to 5 years, a 5 is 6 to 10.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Riley?
Yeah, Chris, we approved Wargo's getting water and sewer. Do you know where that project is?
I do not, it's actually, the construction drawings have been into our office for approval, so we're currently reviewing them.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you, Chris.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you.
This conclude the public hearing on the, whoops. We have anyone signed up?
We do have one speaker,
Sorry.
John Malamo.
Oh, my apologies, Mr. Malama. Thank you. Thank you.
Not quite that generous, though. Sir, good evening to you and your colleagues. John P. Malamo, 2402 Eagle View Drive, Bel Air, Maryland. Now, I appreciate the nice pictures and the discussion of the water and sewer plan, but I'm disturbed that there was no discussion of the situation at the Green Ridge subdivision. Those people are suffering from excessively high water bills, water that's unfit to drink. They use bottled water mostly, and low pressure. It's serviced by a private company, but it's attached to the Harford County Public Water System. Now, I know in Allegheny County, they're considering condemnation through eminent domain to displace that water service company. In Harford County, there's not a peep from anybody. Your legislative aides attend the Community Advisory Board, and I expect that they bring the information back to you, but I didn't hear any discussion of that tonight. And Councilwoman Imhoff, the water at one particular subdivision in Fallston had the same situation, and they got public water. And Mr. Riley, you asked about the Moose Lodge. You sponsored legislation to include that project that you asked about in the county water and master plan. And I'm wondering why nobody has done anything to support the residents, about 1,000 in Green Ridge subdivision. And that's easy to say this is bureaucratic incompetence. But I don't believe that. It's indifference. And it borders on contempt for the residents in Harford County. And this isn't an isolated instance. It happens routinely. And I guess that you're partially responsible for that. And so if you wouldn't mind, find a solution, implement it before it's too late.
Is there any other speakers?
There's no one else signed up, Mr. President.
Then this will conclude the public hearing for the water and sewer, Resolution 00726, and will be taken up at the next meeting. Thank you. We're going to have to take a 4-minute recess before we start at 7:30. Calls to order legislative session day 26011. I would ask you to all please join us for standing with the pledge, or for the pledge, followed by the opening prayer by Councilmember Imhoff. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather as a council and serve the people of this county. Grant us wisdom, clarity, and patience as we carry out the responsibilities before us. Help us to listen with an open mind, speak with respect, make the decisions that reflect the integrity and commitment to a greater good. Guide our work so that it strengthens our community, supports those in need, and honors the trust that placed upon us. May we lead with humility, fairness, and purpose in all that we do. Please watch over our service members and their families during this time, and may they all come home safely. Amen.
Amen. Agenda number 4, presentation of proclamations. We have none. 5, consideration of petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations. Council at this time will be acting in the capacity of the Board of Health to consider this appointment, and we return to regular legislative session immediately thereafter. Board of Health appointments. Office of Mental Health Core Service Agency of Harford County. Mr. Bennett.
Council President, I move to approve the appointments of Amy McClaskey, Lynn Winkler, and Michael Sean Martin to the Office of Mental Health Core Services Agency of Harford County's Board of Directors.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and seconded to approve the appointments. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert. Aye. Mrs. Imhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsatos.
Abstain.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
With 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention, the appointment is hereby approved, or the appointments are hereby approved. Is anyone here this evening in that group? Okay. Council appointments, Harford TV. Ms. Sottles, may I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve the appointment of Dawn Kierstetter to the Harford TV.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's moved and seconded to approve Harford TV's appointment. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert. Aye. Mrs. Imhoff. Aye. Mr. Giangiordano.
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsatos.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the appointment is hereby approved. Dawn, are you here? Okay. Executive appointments, Public Library Board of Trustees, Ms. Imhoff.
Council President, I move to approve the reappointment of Jonas Vogelhut.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and seconded to approve the Library Board of Trustees appointment, or reappointment. Is there any discussion? Ms. Imhoff.
As a member of the Library Board of Trustees, I just appreciate Mr. Vogelhut's attendance and willingness to continue on doing this work.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mrs. Robert.
Aye.
Mrs. Imhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mrs. Bulsatos.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the appointment is hereby approved. Mr. Vogelhut? Okay. Commission on Women, Mr. Giangiordano?
Okay. Council President, move to approve the appointments of Linda Norman, Claudia Natchell, and the reappointments of Amy Janigan, Tatina Levon, Allison McCord, and Linda Stein Flint.
May I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and second to approve the new appointments and reappointments. Is there any discussion? Ms. Emma?
As the council appointee to the Women's Commission and the former chair, I just want to thank you all also for your time and dedication. I know how much work the Women's Commission is and how much you guys have grown it, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mrs. Robert?
Aye.
Mrs. Imhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Bolsados?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Ms. Flint, I see you here. Would you like to stand and be recognized, please? Oh, you're welcome. Advisory Board for Aging, Mr. Giangiordano.
Council President, I move to approve the reappointments of Vicky Bands, Michelle Brosso, Deborah Hanley, Barry Klein, and Janet Parker, and the new appointments of Heather Clapper, Meredith Groff, Catherine Kondracki, Linda Myers, Paul Orlando, and Pamela Rakapini.
Good for you.
Second.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's been moved and seconded to approve the reappointment and new appointments. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mrs. Robert?
Aye.
Mrs. Imhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Bolsados?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 7 votes in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the appointments are hereby approved. Ms. Hanley, I know you're here. I saw you in the audience. Anyone else? Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Number 6, special presentations. Human trafficking update. Ms. Imhoff, if you would like to introduce your guest.
Sure. So Corporal Christopher Hyde and Corporal Alston Mueller from Maryland State Police, FBI. I have had the privilege of working with both Corporal Hyde and Corporal Mueller for several years now. Corporal Hyde recently retired from Maryland State Police. He worked on the Child Recovery Unit, and then Corporal Alston Mueller is currently with Maryland State Police and has been essential in recovering quite a few of our human trafficking survivors. So I'm going to pass it off to them.
Thank you. And gentlemen, if you just pull those mics in a little closer. Thank you for being here this evening, and whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I guess I'll start. Also gave me the privilege of starting because this is my first one I've done in probably 4 months since I retired. Real quick background on me, I retired recently November 1st with 32 years of service to the Maryland State Police, the last 15 of which were doing this type of work. By far, the most rewarding work that I've ever done in my career. And we've locked up murderers, recovered drugs, but just the feeling of being able to help children has been the most rewarding. I personally liked it because I felt like it was something, whether your political beliefs or whether you like police or hate police, this was a crime that everyone got behind, was saving children. So by far the most rewarding work that I've done. Austin, we knew I was going to be retiring, so we kind of handpicked him to take my spot. Austin went and got promoted, and now he is patrolling the mean streets of I-95 in Howard County temporarily, hopefully coming back soon. But again, Austin's been working with me for the past 3 or 4 years, but talk a little bit about yourself, Austin.
Yep, Austin Mueller, been a trooper for almost 14 years, and or with Maryland State Police for almost 14 years. I came to a child sex abuse unit of the Maryland State Police, met Chris Hyde, saw the things that he was doing, helping out kids and locking up human traffickers, and said, that's something that I need to get behind, and I need to learn how to do that. And then just was very privileged to be able to be trained by Chris and go out there and do a lot of really good things and help a lot of really cool kids and kind of learn a very nasty side of the society. So very grateful to be here.
So real quick, just a brief overview of, and if I keep saying we, I apologize. It's the first time without being a trooper. But it's a small unit that investigates missing and exploited children. They assist all the police departments in the state. If you get an Amber Alert, there's 2 people now that do those. We no longer do those. But Maryland State Police is responsible for issuing the Amber Alerts, the Silver Alerts, which everybody's probably familiar with. Work with NCMEC and the Maryland Center for Missing Children as well. And basically the work that this unit does, and we've worked with a lot of municipalities, we've worked with Harford County. I know a recent case that we had up in Bel Air. They're able to kind of pick and choose the cases they work, the more vulnerable children. Studies will show that the children that run away 3 to 4 times, those are your cases you want to go after, especially young females. This is a crime. This trafficking is a thing that involves men as well, or boys. But the vast majority of these cases are young girls. So you get a young girl that runs away 3 or 4 times. Back old school policing was that we would call that like a frequent flyer, or that child will be back. She runs away all the time. She always comes back. Well, guess what? She's not going to sometimes. The first case that I worked in January 2011, when I came fresh into the unit, and I'm sitting there waiting to get a laptop issued to me and all these different things, and I'm seeing everybody sees these missing children posters. And the first one I saw was a young lady that was missing out of Prince William County, Virginia. She was missing for 9 months. I went to the sergeant in charge. I was like, hey, Sarge, I see this missing kid poster. Do you mind? Like, it said she had ties to Maryland. He's like, yeah, go ahead. Contact the officer. So I called down there. It was still assigned to a patrol officer who I knew wasn't doing anything. And I asked him, I said, hey, like, I see this missing girl. Like, is there anything I can do to help you? I see she has ties to Maryland. He's like, yeah, man, whatever you want to do. His words, knock your socks off. He's like, she always comes back. And I'm like, but it's been 9 months, and she's still not back. So anyway, it basically took, and I don't say anything to brag about the work we did, because the work that we do in this unit, that I used to do, is it's just very time consuming. The majority of the work that you do is after the fact, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I spent about 2 weeks doing subpoenas through Facebook. I get a phone number from Facebook, send the phone number off, and I get a hit on a prostitution website. I contact them, get a new subpoena out, and I get a new phone number with a current ad that's posted in College Park, Maryland. So within hours, we go down with the FBI, we arrest a pimp, we arrest a bottom girl, and we recover the juvenile who had been missing for 9 months, of 8.5 with which she had been prostituted, pimped out by a pimp. And I don't say that to talk bad about the officer that had the case. That's just the way old school policing was. So after that case, and again, we were just a missing kid unit at this time. I had no idea what prostitution was. I had no idea what human trafficking was. If you asked me what it was then, I would say, oh, that's like girls that dress provocatively, maybe hang out at the strip club. I would have never imagined that it was a 15-year-old girl that was being pimped out. So it kind of got the wheels going. We got really involved, and we started this thing with a victim-centered approach with the Maryland State Police. And it was basically saying, like, we are not going to arrest these people. I've personally met thousands. Austin's met hundreds, if not 1,000. We go out and we make these dates, and my goal was to, number one was to rescue children. Number two was to assist anyone that needed help. And number three was to arrest a pimp or a trafficker. And it was in that order. I didn't want to mess up 1 and 2 to get to 3, if that makes sense. Like, we wanted to make sure that that person was stable. So we started this thing. We're like, hey, let's get these nonprofit organizations out with us. So when we go out, and Ms. Emhoff's been out with us before from her prior work that she did, and we want that help of the community. So we'll go out, we make these dates, and it's funny going into these rooms and you meet these young ladies. And I can say that out of the 1,000 that I've met, maybe one hand that I can count where I walked out and I was like, you know what, like, that person actually is doing this because they want to do it. It's always someone or sometimes something, but typically it's someone that's making the girls to do this stuff. And most of the time, we don't find out about it. We're never going to identify a trafficker. But in the cases that we do and we're able to make a recovery, it's a great case, and it really goes a long way. One of the partnerships we built with the MSP is with the FBI. We would not be able to do this work without the FBI's involvement. Why that's important is because most of these traffickers will take young ladies or boys to other states. So anything with a nexus, I-95, perfect example. I mean, they can be from New York down to Virginia in a matter of hours. So we need those contacts. So I would say, hey, we have this young lady that's down in Florida right now. Can you give me the Austin Mueller of the Florida State Police, or whatever, or North Carolina? We want to get these other investigators that are linked together. And the FBI was very good with providing that type of thing. I have a slide up here and I don't know if these numbers are correct. This was correct as of about 8 months ago. It's probably now 15 task force officers because Austin's not there anymore.
Yeah, the numbers have dwindled, unfortunately.
Sorry.
It's definitely with law enforcement staffing. It's
so we have those resources available to us. Do you want to?
Yeah, so we get this a lot, and Chris and I, we do a lot of these talks and do a lot of trainings for mostly law enforcement, but sometimes we find ourselves in different boards. And we get very often, hey, what is human trafficking? What is this? What is that? Right? And more so, we try not to have. I try not to sit here and read a PowerPoint the entire time as we go through all of this. But we're getting people that are being forced into sex, right? Whether they're being held against their will or put in a position that they feel like they're being held against their will. We can talk about it later, but one thing we find a lot is licenses being confiscated by pimps with these young girls, and that puts them in a position that they feel they can't leave, right? And then hence that is the trafficking. Even though they're not being there held in chains like a lot of these movies portray, right? There is this drive, there is this factor, there is this fear of if they leave that person that they're being held there, right? That there's going to be some sort of harm. That is trafficking, right? By every point of the word, we can articulate that is trafficking. We see that in an extensive amount of times. Very little do we see the Hollywood side of things where it's people being chained in a basement. I'm not saying that we don't see it. I'm just saying it's very, very little. We see the fear, the fallout, the coercion of maintaining these victims by these traffickers. Again, I don't want to go through and just completely read off all the slideshows, and I apologize that the viewers at home can't see it, but I would be doing a great disservice to your citizens if I sat here and tried to read the PowerPoint 30 feet ahead of me. So,
Well, one of the other great things about working, again, with the federal partners is the federal laws are so much stricter. And there's that minimum mandatory, and I think it's at least 10 years, in most cases 15 years if it's a juvenile. But those sentences are very severe. We interview pimps as well, and the pimps will tell you back when we interview them, like, we had a pimp one day that had two 18-year-old girls with him, and to us, like, you're despicable, but to him, he's like, but I don't have a kid. Like, I heard about Maryland. I know you all are real strict on kids. And I'm like, so it's 17, it's okay. I mean, 18, it's okay, but 17's a problem. But yeah, that's just the mentality of these individuals. But we do like the fact that we have the federal laws. And I know in certain jurisdictions, and I don't know Harford County specifically, but I know in certain jurisdictions it is more of a penalty, a severe penalty. But the feds is definitely what the pimps are worried about. So here are the victims, and I put this in here, and we've taught thousands of law enforcement officers here in Maryland. We've taught in other states as well. We taught one in Arkansas, and literally 5 minutes into it, a deputy raised his hand. He said, "We only got that problem down here in Arkansas." And I went up on the website, and I pulled it up, and within 2 minutes, I had hundreds of ads, prostitution ads. And I said to him at that point, I was like, if you have drugs, if you have prostitution, you have human trafficking. I don't care where it is. The only place I can say that I've been, we did an operation out in Deep Creek Lake once, and we found like one ad. There's still something going on out there where we're not familiar. Law enforcement's not familiar with where it is, where it's being advertised. But the victims that we typically focus on are the foster youth. We hammer that in our trainings with law enforcement, especially those that are taking missing person reports. And even when we do these types of presentations for victim advocates, those are the kids that get lost. Every single case that I've worked, every juvenile victim, Austin's working as well, it's never been a mom and a dad involved. Like, so parents are like, what can I do to help to protect my kids? I'm like, first of all, you're involved in your child's life. You, a man and a husband, or husband and wife, whatever it may be, two parents, you're so far ahead of this, right? The kids that are being impacted are the foster youth, by far the majority of the cases. And I always use the word no constant because they don't have a constant in their life. I still have a constant in my life. I'm 51 years old. I still have parents that are asking me where I am every day. So I have that constant, and it's rewarding, but it also sucks. When you go into a group home as an older man, or two older white men, and you meet a 15-year-old young African-American female who's in a group home with her peers, and she comes running across the hallway to give you a hug because she's just so happy to see you, and you feel really good about yourself, but you're like, you feel really bad too. Like, that's what this poor kid's got to look forward to, because guess what? Nobody else pays attention to her. Nobody else asked her a week ago, what do you want, what's your favorite lunch? And she says Chipotle, and the next time you come, you bring her Chipotle. So she's not used to that. I don't want to get in on social services and things like that. We teach that as well, but like, it just needs to be, there needs to be more awareness, more working with children. I was on a panel with Safe Harbor, and I kept beating the drum. They're like, we gotta, pass the legislation that you can't lock up kids for prostitution. I'm like, we're not. I said, can we talk about services? Because that's where we really lack here, is we lack services for those children. We can find them all we want, but guess what? Austin has a case right now. He's working where the young lady's already ran away. How many times? 4? 3, 4 times?
3 or 4 times.
And it's a constant struggle to get the help they need, but sidebar anyway. But most of the victims have low self-esteem. I kind of equivalent to like social media. And I don't mean to sound disrespectful at all when I say this, but like, you know, you hear like, oh, that girl's a 10 or that guy, he's a 10. The pimps and traffickers are not going after the 10s. They're going after the 1s and 2s. They're stalking these Facebook pages, these social media pages of these young ladies, say young ladies, it could be anything, but mainly the young women who don't have any likes. So if she's posting a selfie and it's got 0 likes, that's a target. Because all it's going to take is that person to send a message saying, hey, I think you're beautiful, and they're hooked. And again, individuals with impairments, and again, we need to see lots of manipulation techniques. Individuals with addiction issues, that's a whole other ballgame trying to get those people help. Because you have to treat the addiction before you can treat the trauma, or vice versa, and that's a whole other thing that's hard to work through. There you go.
Yeah, so some indicators that you'll see, we'll harp on a lot of it. And I mentioned the license thing a little bit earlier, but just no identification on the person. We try to teach this a lot for our guys, especially being Maryland State Police. They're out there making a ton of traffic stops, understandably so. And we're like, hey, if you're trying to identify people within the within a vehicle or within a scene, and the guy has, you know, numerous IDs or a lot of the belongings of the female, that's a clue, and just kind of raise the eyebrow, raise a red flag. Brandings, when we say brandings, we're referring to tattoos. We don't mean actual like burnt brands, although we have seen that as well. But more about crowns, power, money, respect, and the pimp's name or whatever their street name would be, or some variation of those items within tattoos on their body. It's pretty easy for us to ask them. Most in our experience, most of the women are pretty forthcoming with showing us their tattoos. I mean, especially when sometimes, unfortunately, it's how we identify bodies. And that kind of, when we ask things like, hey, do you have any tattoos that are unique to you that we can see that, you know, God forbid anything happens to you. And also, as a guy who has a lot of tattoos, I like to just show off my tattoos too, so they feel the same way. But also, we talk about lies quite often, and it's something that we kind of get honed in on court preferences, right, or court proceedings, because everybody lies. We don't really believe many people when we first walk into a room. In fairness, I wouldn't want to be talking to cops either. I get it. We understand the position that they find themselves in. And we kind of have ways to combat that. Chris and I like to think we're funny, so anytime we went to a room, we always try to make people laugh and relax them a little bit, and then they'd stop lying. And it kind of touches on our fearful thing. Obviously, if these young victims here are doing this, they're scared. They're whether they're scared of us or scared of the trafficker or scared of what the trafficker is going to do to them if they think they talk to us. It's definitely stuff that we've had to go around, and in some cases even fake arrest girls to get them out and then just take them to dinner and then, you know, just let them go from there and under the guise that they've been arrested so their pimp doesn't go after them and they get a break. But yeah.
So some of the different hotspots, and again, we talked the hotels, the motels along the highways, airports. BWI is a major hub. People fly in and out of there. Their pimps will send girls from, surprisingly to me, was Nevada. I thought that would be an easy one. They're like, no, like you make more money here in the Baltimore metropolitan area than you would in Nevada. I think at this point, Maryland's like number 4 in the country as far as making money in this type of work. Again, drugs lead to prostitution. Prostitution leads to trafficking. We talked about that earlier. And I firmly believe that human trafficking is everywhere. It's in this community, and I have a slide coming up on that. And I know in the interest of saving some time, I want to go through a little bit of some of the hotels that we go through. We've done training for the hotels. We go in and talk to these hotels. We get, and again, everybody buys in. It's not like you're going up and, you know, we never have issues with hotels cooperating with us saying, hey, I think this young lady in this room may be a victim of trafficking. They're going to help us out. So we use that to our advantage. How do they post this stuff? Backpage used to be the site. Backpage was a legitimate website. They were very law enforcement friendly. I hate to say it out loud, but like when Backpage went away, like the federal government got involved and they shut it down. But if we found, like that 15-year-old girl that I found down in Prince George's County, I sent an email, a simple email to, it was records@backpage.com. I said, exit request, hey, I'm out with a 15-year-old young lady, and within 5 minutes I had a response from them. So yeah, they were making a lot of money on what they were doing, but at the end of the day, it was one central website that was all these girls were posting. So we had a young lady that ran away from Montgomery County. We recovered her, we put her in placement, she runs away again, she ends up in Philadelphia. We go to Backpage Philadelphia, and we're able to find the young lady based off a tattoo on her wrist. So it was very simple, but again, and I know all this stuff's blurred out, but these are like basically an ad. It's like any other ad that you would see, like it could be for a dishwasher. This is advertising sex, and this is what you're gonna see. Backpage gets shut down, so you go from one site to, and here's just about 6 of them that we posted. So when we were doing these things, it was like, you know, we were always on Backpage, and I was like, hey, Austin, you go on this one, I'll do this one. It didn't really stop. All it did was force these different companies to go overseas. So that's where everything's hosted from. Well, guess what now? We don't get subpoenas to them because they're not going to respond to that kind of stuff. But it's basically an ad that's similar. It's very clear. You don't have to be an expert to testify in court that that is a prostitution ad. And again, then after that, after the contact's made and the interviews are made, you determine whether you have trafficking or not. I pulled this up this morning at 11 a.m. There was 5, and I just typed in Aberdeen on a website called Listcrawler. There were 5 ads that were posted in the Aberdeen area for prostitution. We talked about brandings a little bit. This is what I have a picture of what you would see. The one on the right there was a young lady that we knew about this pimp. We ended up meeting this young lady. I said, can I see your tattoo? She pulled her hair up, and like the hair on my arm stood up. I was like, ooh, like we got this guy now. Because she had told us, she gave us a lot of information that was very valuable to sentencing this young man to like 15 years in prison. Again, some more. This was a date we made at a hotel. We went down to the front desk. Hey, we're in this room. This girl was like 19. Like, oh yeah, she checked in with another girl. She's in another room. We went up to that room, knocked on that door. Same exact tattoo. They swore her up and down. They didn't know each other. But again, they were so scared of these pimps. This was a pimp that was out of Toledo, Ohio, that we were able to put information together that got him sentenced out there, showing that he transported victims to another state, and he had a federal case out there. Some of the evidence you see, and in the interest of, I know we're at like 20 minutes now, but obviously condoms, some journals, lubricants, physical neglect. One of the things we always do when we go in and we know we have a victim is we say, when was the last time you ate? Because the vast majority of these time, these girls have what they call a quota. It's either a certain amount of money they're required to make or a certain amount of dates they're required to make. And they don't have any money. So we say, like, can I see your money? Because if I don't see money, you clearly already told us you made 3 or 4 dates today. Well, I don't want your money. I'm not going to take your money. But if you have money, that's good for me to see. If you don't, then I'm pretty sure you have a pimp. So we've had numerous times where we've gone like, we haven't eaten dinner yet, let's get a pizza. And the girl's like, I haven't eaten in 2 days. Okay, cool, let's sit down and have a pizza. We'll sit on the floor and eat a pizza while the girl sits in the chair. And again, we're just trying to build rapport. We're trying to make a case if we can, but at the end of the day, we make sure she's okay. Austin brought up fake arresting. We've done that numerous times where I'm like, I know, you don't have to tell me, I know you probably have a pimp sitting out in the parking lot. Let's do this. How about I throw you in handcuffs? We'll put you in my car because he ain't gonna believe that the police showed up and didn't arrest you, right? They're gonna think you didn't get arrested. They're gonna think that you robbed, that you know, like you're stealing money. So we've done these things before where I'm like, let's put you in handcuffs, let's get you out of here. As far as he knows, you've been arrested. The other thing is, while we're sitting here sometimes making these dates, and Ms. Imhoff can attest to this, that phone will start ringing and it'll say daddy. And I'm like, I know who that is. Like, I know you don't want to tell me who it is. I know who it is. Let me just say this. We're in this room, whether we are police officers or you're in here beating your butt. He's not coming back. And in 15 years, never once has a pimp come back to a room. They're long gone. So we use that to our advantage as well to show these young ladies that these men are not your boyfriends. They don't care about you. We've had other girls that'll say, no, you don't understand. Like, I get my nails done, I get my hair done. He buys all that for me. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Well, he buys it for me. I was like, what's his job? What do you mean? I'm like, what is his job? Like, you're telling me he's getting your nails done, getting your hair done, but you made that money and you gave it to him, and he gave you money back. And then it's just like this manipulation that they just don't understand what's going on. They're like, finally, like a light bulb, like, oh my God, like I'm being manipulated. So again, things that we use to our advantage. Physical trauma, we talk about that all day. The mental trauma is a whole nother thing. This case that Austin's working right now, it was a young lady that was recovered a juvenile at a hotel in Baltimore County. I retired a couple days later. Austin's done a phenomenal job on this case. Gets a warrant for 2 pimps. And when he locks up the pimp, guess what he's got with him? Another juvenile. So again, the trauma that this young lady, and I've met her, and that girl's got a long road ahead of her. And the thing that sucks is we don't have the resources to help her. We try, and Austin, he was there today, or yesterday with her. It's hard, but it's well worth it. This is a picture I took. Secretary Woburn Smith went out on a ride along with us the first day we made. The girl jumped out of a third-story building. He wanted to come out and see how it was, and I was like, oh, this is great. But her pimp told her to get out of there, and the only way out was out the window. She ended up breaking her hip, or her knee, and like several other bones, all because he told her to leave. I'm sorry, you want to jump in?
No, when we interview victims, again, I said before, Chris and I like to think that we're pretty funny. So we try to utilize humor to break through barriers. It's really tough. These kids, a lot of these victims, they've been through more grotesque things than you can imagine. And we find that you can't really go under there thinking, like wearing a uniform and then thinking that you're going to get a good reaction out of people. You got to be a human, you know? It's the worst day of their life, one of the times that they see a cop, and that's not good, right? So we make sure that we treat them all with respect. We understand that this is probably not what they want to be doing in their life, right? Doesn't mean that we disrespect them in any way. We just try to be human. We don't judge them. There's nothing about that. We just try to help them the best way that we can help them. Sometimes it's just getting them resources. And then most importantly, especially even more so with our juveniles, we follow up. A lot of our job is spent going back and just spending time. It's just genuinely just taking an interest in people's lives that are a little bit less fortunate right now, and that you hope they have a great outcome and they can kind of spread the wealth to somebody else. We had an interview this morning with a young girl who was in the system and is luckily got resources, and she's in the process of getting her master's degree for a social working degree, so that way she can go back and help the victims that like her. And it's been very rewarding, but it just goes to show that the people that wind up in this, they're worth saving. It's a bigger problem than half of society even knows.
And we teach law enforcement and social workers especially, the follow-up thing is, like, if you don't, you're done. Like, you're just like every other person that let that child down. So if you tell them you're going to be somewhere, you better. And if you're not, you're done. You better at least make a phone call. Again, I have some photos here of some of the victims. Nothing specific. It's all different individuals that we've run across. We've gotten young girls as young as 12 and as old as 76. 76. Now that was one of the five that said that she came up from Texas because she needed insulation for her home. And she told me that she had a lot of men up here that paid her for that. Again, we didn't treat her any differently. We offered her resources, but she'd been doing it for so long. But yeah, 12 years old was actually the pimp's idea was that he had no idea, even though her idea of fun was coloring in a coloring book. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about massage parlors. We don't do a lot of work with massage parlors because, again, we're looking for children. I don't know of a case anywhere recently where we've had children located in a massage parlor, but I do know that again, is something that happens everywhere. I do know that they just recently had something up here in Harford County, and I knew they did a great job with that. Get through here. So some of the resources that are available, and this is like probably one of the last slides here, but again, we don't do this work without victim partners, victim advocates. I will say in closing, one of the most rewarding case that I've ever had did not involve an arrest. It involved a young lady who was 23 years old at the time that I encountered her. She was being trafficked quite obviously, but it took about 4 interactions with her before we finally got her to get the help that she needed. She ended up, she comes from a very well family up in Moncton, Maryland. Went to a very prestigious high school, ended up at a very nice college, had a car accident, and ended up on pain medication. Pain medication got cut off. She ends up down in Baltimore and gets hooked up with a guy for OxyContin. And then heroin, he starts pimping her out for several months. Long story short, again, we just stayed at it, kept maintaining contact, kept interviewing her, kept meeting with her, had other detectives meet with her, to the point where she finally said, okay, I want to get the help I need. She went away for 9 months and did fantastic, did amazing, actually. And I knew who the pimp was, but she never wanted to talk about it. So that's fine. Like, the biggest thing is you get the help you need. Fast forward to last September, I was invited to her wedding. My wife and I were invited to her wedding, where she met a young man who's facing similar struggles, and they're doing remarkably well. I just got a text 2 months ago that she had her first child. I asked her, she didn't name it Christina at my request, but she's doing fantastic. I still, to this day, keep in contact with this young lady who I met in 2015. It doesn't cost me anything other than some time on the phone. I didn't put a lot of work into it other than showing compassion. last slide here. We picked up this young lady, this was Rich Pringer and I. Rich was the Baltimore County detective. She was in foster care, in and out of foster care. She did not like the foster care facility she was at. And I said, well, that's what we don't want to do that. We want to send you back there. I don't want you to run away again. Like, where would you want to go? She's like, I have no idea. I said, let's play a game. If you could pick anywhere in this world that you want to go, where would that be? Her words, I want to go home. I want to go to a home. I've never had a home before. I was like, oh, wow, that sucks. And that was pretty early on in my career with this work. So that was a motivating factor for me. And again, this is one young lady. She's a sweetheart. We still also keep in touch. She's got the help she needs. She actually got adopted at age 17 and a half years old in Frederick County, and we were invited to that as well. So again, just different things, but it does happen. It is here. Again, the state police would, when Austin gets back, we'll be more than happy to help you. And there's Austin's information. Austin is at the Waterloo Barrack if you'd like to call and talk. He loves to chat on the phone. So if you just Google the Waterloo Barrack, he'd be more than happy to talk to you on the phone as well. Thank you guys for having us.
So, thank you for enlightening us, me especially, and I want to thank you for your presentation. But more importantly, I want to thank you for your years of dedication to the kids. I mean, it's unbelievable. You said 30 years, 14 years for you, Austin?
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. But when you go home at night, how do you get away from it?
I think it's my warped sense of humor. It's like I use that kind of like I think a shield. Like I just like you've got to I don't know like it's I try to see the best in everybody and again I think Austin's done the same thing is like we try not to talk about it like when we you go and see these things it's horrible but I think then seeing the positive impact you have I think it makes it that much easier. But my wife knows not to ask questions about it. So when I have in most cases I have a 45-minute to an hour ride home. So I have plenty of time to decompress, think of that. I mean, maybe down the road I'll need some help. I don't know. But right now I feel like I'm okay.
I can attest that Chris needs help immediately. But no, having a supportive spouse, I couldn't imagine doing this without a supportive spouse at home to be able to do it. Just working child crimes for as long as we both have, and then dealing with kids that have been abused sexually and physically at the extent of what we've seen. It's you develop a warped sense of humor, and it's really hard not to sit here and crack jokes this entire time because otherwise it gets like way too serious. So, but no, it's very rewarding. So, kind of helps.
Well, I recently was asked a question about human trafficking, and I wasn't really prepared to answer it fully by any stretch of the imagination. And when I came back to the office and I spoke to both Allison and Nolanda, they both said, oh, well, we can take care of that. And so that brought us to tonight. So Allison, if you'd like to comment.
Sure. So Harford County is sometimes a very old school county, and so a lot of people don't want to believe that human trafficking is here. The young lady who was just recovered this past fall, that you're still working on the case, she was a runaway from Harford County, and she had been missing. We found her in September, and she had been missing since May, and people stopped looking for her after a month. She was in a hotel in Towson. She was a young lady who has a lot of issues, but she is a very sweet young lady. And I just want to give you guys a special shout out, especially Austin. You guys have maintained a really great relationship with her. She's got a lot of issues. They give me grief because I was out with them earlier that evening, and then I ended up leaving before they took her to a placement out in Frederick?
Hagerstown.
And I didn't go along with them for that ride. But they have maintained remarkable relationship with her. And I know it's a difficult case, but you guys were able to get charges pressed against 2 traffickers in 2 separate states for one young lady who you end up recovering another youth.
Yeah, we're still, that case is, we can't talk too much about it. It's still ongoing. There are
That's
additional
fair.
victims. It's kind of, it's still being worked.
But it was a young lady, a teenager, one of our teenagers. And that's just one of them. The irony of that case is we had gone out that night and we were kind of wrapping things up. And Austin just happened to be scrolling through ads, and we were parked in a parking lot, and he goes, oh, I got one here. So you can't help but think that it was right place at the right time. Mm-hmm. But they've done a remarkable job with that case, and I'm looking forward to seeing a conclusion to it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Nolanda?
Thank you for your presentation. I'm a child and adolescent therapist, but I also worked in the courts in Cecil, in which I worked with social services and a lot of children who ended up coming into care because we found them trafficked in the motels on 40. Then they would run away from the foster parent. And so I know that cyclical kind of thing. I just had a couple questions because I think I was a little surprised by Maryland having the number 4 seat in this game, even though I know the 40 corridor, the 95 corridor, and the 270 corridor were always where I hear a lot of movement going on. But do you seem to think there's been an increase in number of actual trafficked youth, or has it remained flat? I feel like it's more pronounced now in the media, and we hear it more than I used to hear it. I just knew it because I was in the field, but I feel like we hear it more. Do you think the numbers are kind of raising in that?
I think it's more just the awareness is there now.
Okay.
So I don't think it's really changed. I think it's always been there. It's just now the awareness has changed. But then there's also, once you lost Backpage, and when that happened that day, we were like, uh-oh, like, what do we do now? But luckily, we had contacts with young ladies, adults, and I was like, hey, like, I know you're still doing your thing. Like, what are you using now? So we'd have to reach out and, like, learn from them, like, what apps they're using. I think there might be some of it that's hidden. Like, some of them might be on, like, Snapchat now. Or, and some of the other ones, like, OnlyFans. We've been asked about that, but you have to subscribe to that, you have to pay for that, and then you can't really have like an undercover identity on there. So yeah, I think it's probably about the same. I think it's just the light that's being shined on it is so much greater, which is a good thing. And again, like we talked to the pimp, and he's like, I don't mess with kids in Maryland. Like, okay, but it's 18's okay. Like, but even that's a win. I guess that guy's like, yeah, I'm not taking my chances.
And then on the other side of the coin, I think we can say that we've seen an uptick in kind of a quasi-trafficking of just pedophilia and like dads prostituting their daughters with other pedophiles. I.e. trafficking in a sense. So you can get those charges. We can go after that side of things. We see that has grown significantly over time. Even just the last 8 years that I've been doing child sex crimes, child sex abuse. That's been very prevalent. But I agree with Chris in the sense of the more typical commercial sex trafficking is, I think it's just getting a lot more pressed, which is good, but I don't think it's going up any.
And my next question is, do you think the average age has gone down? I feel like a lot of 11-year-old and 12-year-olds are more involved in social media and actually doing a lot more texting of older gentlemen to get that. Where my foster care kids, what I used to work with, wanted was the unconditional love. They weren't getting it at home, so they were looking for love in all the wrong places, technically.
Right.
Do you see that age going down?
I think so. I agree with that, because I think when I first started doing this back in 2011, it was new then. It's only been a few years. But I think now, like, yes, the ages have come down, because, there's so many girls that are sexualized at a young age. And again, your foster kids they're just not being monitored. Like, and again, even teaching internet safety classes, it's like, what can I do? And I'm like, just being that involved in your life. Check your kid's phone once in a while, to try and stop that from happening. But yes, I definitely agree with that.
And do you feel like any of them, have you had any data on returns home to actual family members? Or do they end up usually just?
Unfortunately, the vast majority of the girls age out of the system.
Okay.
And we try to encourage, because I think they can stay, and Miss Imhoff, I think it's
21.
21. We try to encourage that. I'm like, listen, like, and I don't want to say use or play the game, but I'm like, look, you have people that care about you. Like just stay in that system as long as you can. And a lot will, but some, unfortunately, like as soon as I turn 18, I'm checking myself out. And then the cycle repeats again, unfortunately. And we have one that's recently up this way that was placed up here. And I thought she was going to stay. I thought we had her convinced, and then at 18 in one day, she was gone. So yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know. I guess I really don't know what to say to that. I don't know what you have any.
I think it's hit and miss. I think it just depends on the child, and then whatever assets that law enforcement and social workers are able to get to him to hopefully make a good enough impact for him to stay.
It's very rare that it's very rare to have one with a family that is involved in it to begin with. The young lady that I brought up that I went to the wedding, that was very rare. And again, she was 23 at the time that we met her. So I think she's 30 now. Yeah, her age. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, thank you for this presentation. It's like kind of painful and hurtful to listen to, but it's also, I think, important for the public to learn about. I was just curious, because it sounds like it's a very small team. How do you prevent yourselves from being identifiable, like from a visual perspective, when you walk through a parking lot to try and meet one of these people and help them?
I think the thing that works for us is the fact that when we go in there, we tell them that we are a specialty unit that goes out looking for children. So I think immediately, as soon as you tell them that, because most of the time they're adults, and I think as soon as you say that, it's a little bit of a, okay, I'm an adult. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, all I'm asking you to do is, like, don't put me out there. Like, please don't put us out there on blast that we're out here. Don't burn our phone numbers, and they will sometimes. But unless they have a warrant, we tell them they're not being placed under arrest. So I think, again, we talked about at the very beginning, like, people rally behind that. I think this is a really good thing. That you're out here looking for police officers. And there's message boards out there that these young people talk on as well. And you'll see it. They're like, oh, these guys are actually really cool. Like, they're not here to arrest you. They are looking for kids. And we leave our phone number at every single one of them. And like the last 6 months, I was leaving Austin's number because I'm like, I'm gone. But it's like, just if you see this, call us because we are interested. And it's interesting, like, we'd like to be a fly on the wall when we leave. Because, like, I still think that until they close that door, they're like, these cops are still lying to me. They're still going to arrest me. And then finally, when they close the door, they're like, okay, wow, they actually didn't arrest me. Because that's just the way they've been treated in the past is, you know, you ever been arrested before? Yes. For what? Prostitution. Okay. What happened? And that's when we first started doing this. Again, we got a lot of pushback from different jurisdictions. So I'm like, this is the way I'm saying we're doing it, is we're not arresting these girls. We are literally going in, we're trying to offer services, we're trying to get them the help they need to stop it. But other jurisdictions did arrest, and we use that to our advantage. I taught at training in Salisbury, and before I got across the bridge, I was getting a call saying, did you tell them they couldn't? I'm like, no, it's a law. You can't arrest. I said, this is what we do, and this is what works for us. I mean, it's been very beneficial with the information. We've recovered numerous kids based off of adult girls in the game that have provided information to us. So we use that to our advantage. So yeah, as far as being like burned or, no, we don't, I mean, and we're all over the state too. Now, if we're in a small jurisdiction, it might be a little different, but we're all over the state. So we might be I'm not anymore, might be in Salisbury one day and Frederick the next day. So it's a broader.
And thanks to the partnership with the FBI that we have, we're able to swap out vehicles pretty regularly if we would like. And then just the nature of what we're doing, they don't really see us until they open the door. A lot of times the pimps are posting the ads, making the chats, texting us back and forth when we're doing it. It's significantly easier, obviously, to obscure yourself in an online presence. But by the time we already know where we're going, it doesn't really matter, right? If they don't want to open the door, we'll wait. It's not really hard to get through that barrier, if you will.
And we only had the one that didn't open the door. She jumped out the window.
And she jumped out the window, yeah.
Every other one's they open the door, so.
And then I wanted to ask about, I think the acronym is CSAM, like
Child sexual abuse material.
Yes. Is there overlap in the like production of that content and this work? Do you find that often it's these same kids that are being abused in that way too?
That's kind of a loaded. That's a bit of a loaded one, which we could definitely talk offline much clearer. As soon as we start getting into the child sexual abuse material, it's really hard for me to talk about that and maintain like a clean presentation for folks at home, just because the nature of it is grotesque. But there is a significant amount of overlap between pedophilia and human trafficking. Now, if you are paying to have sex with what you believe is an underage person, the likelihood of you recording that, if you're aware, is significantly higher, and then subjectifying that victim all over the internet. That they typically often go back and sell it, and we investigate that side of it. And sometimes our cases come through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC for short, and then based off of CSAM, and we're able to investigate it that way. But again, for the purposes of today's presentation, I don't think you want me talking about that stuff in front.
Absolutely not.
Okay. I will, but I gotta warn you, it's bad.
Yeah, I drew a line at that. I was like, I don't want to look at that kind of.
I just wasn't sure if it was the same populations of
No,
children.
I understand, sir. I understand. Again, it's a loaded question. And again, as Ms. Imhoff has come out with us, we like to open our doors and our arms willingly. If anybody ever wants to come on out and see the different side of society and kind of get a better understanding for yourself, we'd love to have people. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anyone else? Gentlemen, I want to thank you for the service you provide our citizens, and it's unfortunate that you have to do that. But thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Allison, thank you for setting it up.
Anytime.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Agenda number 7, approval of minutes, legislative day 25-010, March 17th, 2026. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There being no corrections to the minutes, they stand approved. 8, introduction and consideration of resolutions. Mr. Giangiordano, please read in Bill 26003.
Bill 26-003, appropriation special pays as introduced by the Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive, and act to make a supplemental appropriation of funds from the general fund for the current fiscal year to provide the necessary funds to cover expenses incurred during fiscal year 2026 attributable to anticipated retirements. Public hearing scheduled on Tuesday, May 5th, 2026 at 7:15 p.m. in these council chambers.
Thank you. 10, introduction and consideration of amendments. There are none. 11, call for final reading of bills, none. 12, enrollment of bills, none. 13, unfinished business, none. 14, new business, none. 15, comments and input from attending citizens. Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up?
We do, Mr. President. We have 5 this evening. Jeff Beck, followed by Matthew Brown.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Jeffrey Beck, 102 Chell Road, Joppatown, Maryland, 21085. Good evening, Council President, Council members, attending citizens, and everyone watching at home. Harford County is a great place to live, work, learn, and raise a family, but that is becoming increasingly difficult. Recent overdevelopment, combined with minimal maintenance of an aging infrastructure, is already taking a toll. Deteriorating roads, congestion, limited walkability, and an extremely strained public transportation service make the daily life of commuting, shopping, and socializing far more stressful and time-consuming than it ever was or should be. Not only are our residents feeling this strain, but our businesses as well. A strong economy depends on safe roads, walkable sidewalks, and reliable public transportation. Every year, the county sends a list of infrastructure-related projects to the state for consideration of state and/or federal funding. The projects are listed in order of importance to the overall transportation network in the county. A handful of years ago, a project was added to the bottom of the list requesting Federal Transportation Administration, FTA, grant funding to acquire land, design, and construct a new Harford Transit Link Operations Center and Maintenance Facility to replace the aging, deteriorating, and insufficiently sized and poorly located current facility. This project, along with every other project on the list, has received broad support from the administration, from the Harford delegation to Annapolis, and from this council until this year. This request for FTA funding will go a long way to support the services of Harford Transit Link by providing a building that is capable of supporting those services. A building that can adequately store, repair, and maintain our county buses while providing sufficient and safe parking for our Link employees. A building in a location that doesn't stop traffic, quite literally, anytime a bus needs to come or go. A building that allows Transit Link to better serve its clients right here in Harford County, many of whom are students, seniors, disabled, or disadvantaged. What it does not do is expand MTA services from Baltimore City and County into Harford, nor does it expand the Link services to out-of-county destinations. Support for this grant request is support for Transit Link, it's support for our infrastructure, and it's support for Harford County residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Call your next speaker.
Matthew Brown.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Matthew Brown, 1837 Still Pond Way. Good evening, members of the council. I want to speak tonight about something that should be concerned to everyone in Harford County, regardless of party. Over the last several months, we've seen a sustained political pressure campaign aimed at our schools, our officials, and our local institutions. A large part of the campaign has been from the Turnbull Brockmere Law Group. And let me say something very clear. People have a right to criticize and speak to the government and raise concerns, part of our great democracy. When a private law firm located outside our county begins running what looks like a political messaging operation aimed at shaping public opinion and influencing the direction of our government, it raises some serious questions. Because Harford County government should ultimately answer to the voters who live here, not the pressure of campaigns that originate beyond our borders. We often hear a slogan, keep Baltimore policies and crime out of Harford County. If we believe that slogan, then it should also be as important to keep Baltimore County political pressures outside of Harford County. Because let me ask this honest question. I think everyone should be able to think about this. If the roles were reversed and there was a liberal law firm from outside the county posting daily political messages, targeting our officials, amplifying controversies, and promoting what would be considered democratic talking points about our schools and our government, would that be celebrated? Would people be raising alarms about outside influence and manipulation? Because the principles should not change depending on who you agree with politically. Harford County deserves debate in fair, transparent, and grounded in facts. What should not be accepted is a political climate where social media pressures campaigns try to drive public policy or push institutional decisions facts are not yet confirmed. Our schools, our council, and public office belong to the people of Harford County, not the loudest voices online, not the pressures of campaigns run from outside the county, and not to any private organization attempting to shape our political environment without the ability to be accountable to the voters who live here. The council has a responsibility to protect the integrity of the institution and the trust in its residents. Because where I hear from, common sense leadership is to not allow someone outside of your borders to dictate the way you run your county. Because the future of Harford County should be decided by the people of Harford County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Fred Circus, followed by Carol Bruce.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Dr. Fred Circus, 1114 Stromco Drive, Fallston, Maryland. Good evening, council members. I would like to address two issues. The first, currently speakers need to state their name and address before we speak. And I don't think that this should continue. I don't think it's safe for women to be stating their name and address, especially in light of the trafficking, everything we just heard from the officers. I thought, and also I've seen that or heard that some women have been doxxed after they've provided their name and address. I thought the council voted on this in the past to possibly stop that. Everybody does give their name and address when they sign the book. I know the Board of Ed, people just say that everything's, your address is on file. So if you could clarify that, please. The second issue, with all the campaigning going on lately and all the Facebook posts, even as late as today, there's been a mention of employees of Harford County also being members of the county council and the potential conflict of interest that occurs if they're voting on issues pertaining to their other places of employment. And is the county council planning to consider introducing a bill to clarify the county charter regarding this issue of dual employment? And thank you very much for considering these two items.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address, please.
Carol Bruce, 525 Oak Street, Aberdeen. Good evening, council members. I'm here to respectfully request that the council delay the process for filling the vacancy of the Board of Education. The position was last filled during the budget process, and the individual missed at least 6 meetings prior to the notification of his resignation. During this time, the board has also been involved with a search consultant to fill the vacancy for the school superintendent. This involved establishing criteria for recruitment in selection of candidates. If the vacancy is filled, can the council, if you have to fill the vacancy, can you ask the individual to recuse themselves from the vote on the superintendent's position? The board has conducted a survey of the community, the staff, and students to obtain feedback on the characteristics and quality desired in a new superintendent. 637 responses were received from parents and community members, and 573 from students and staff. The board met today to put together the criteria using these survey results for posting, for the application, for posting the position, and we're planning for interviews for qualified applicants to be interviewed from the community and parents. This is a full-time job. And to have someone come in at this part of the process is going to hinder us getting a valid selection because of the number of people on the school board. So I'm asking you to consider this in terms of all of the new people we've had to put on the board. The most recent young lady did a fantastic job in going through and reviewing all of these interviews and putting together an executive summary for us. So I'm just asking for your cooperation in this event because we have been inundated as board members. Personally, I feel the whole issue of removal of the superintendent and the work that we've had to continue to do for the students of Harford County. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
There are no more speakers, Mr. President.
Thank you, ma'am. So 16, business from council members. Ms. Sottles, we're going to start with you this evening.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be back. I wanted to let you know that tomorrow, Wednesday, is the 15th Annual Chamber of Commerce Taste of Aberdeen. It will be held at 5:30 to 7:30 at the Aberdeen Activity Center. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett?
Hello, good evening. It's good to be with everyone. First, I wanted to address the person's remarks about allowing for people to say address on file. That's something that I personally support in practice, very much so for what you spoke to. I think it's for anyone, many people feel safe saying their address, but there's also members of our community for a whole lot of different reasons who might not want to state their address to the public on something that will be televised. And I do think, writing down your address and having it on file should suffice. It's something that we've had conversations about as council members. I just haven't built the support to introduce that rule change, but it is something that I support. Now to my remarks. I attended Reverend Dr. Barron Young's last service at St. James African Methodist Episcopal Church before his retirement. It was really nice to be able to be there with Council President Vincenti to be able to present a proclamation and celebrate his years of service to our community. I was at the Abingdon Fire Company's Easter breakfast, which was also a lot of fun. It was fun for Ada to meet the Easter Bunny, which was very scary. It was also fun for her to sit on a fire truck, which was much less scary. And it was good to be in community with the volunteers at Abingdon Fire Company. Councilwoman Imhoff, Council President, and myself attended the Aberdeen Fire Department's awards banquet, which was a really great event, and it was really nice to be able to be there, to meet with city council members, to hear just the sheer number of hours that all those volunteers put in each year. And, it was remarked by the police chief of Aberdeen just how important it is that community members realize how many hundreds and thousands of hours these volunteers give each year, because even for him, who responds to the calls along with them, it's hard to wrap your mind around how much hours they give up, unpaid to the community. I was able to attend Beyond the Border, which was a special talk at Harford Community College, looking at Harford County's connection with the Underground Railroad. Ms. Bruce was there as well, and it was really informative. Dr. Iris Barnes was there. And there was a special speaker from Canada who was there who was able to share a lot about the Canada connection to Harford County and just what an important role the Susquehanna River played in guiding people up to the Pennsylvania line. So that was a really great event. I met with the Box Hill community just last night, I believe, and they're continuing, DPW is continuing to work on addressing the flooding issues that community is experiencing with the extreme storms we're facing. That's an issue that we've been working on for 3 years or so now. I know we just passed in last year's capital budget funding to help restore the streams and the culverts in their community to hopefully address some of the flooding that they experience. I've been working on legislation to address data centers and to put forward a moratorium for 90 days on data centers to give us time to draft legislation to update our county code. Because for those of you who don't know, right now there's really nothing stated in our code to guide data centers. And so I don't want to be caught up in a situation like we have been with warehouses where we were 20 years too late on updating the county code. E-commerce came and the industry just totally changed before our eyes. I think it's good to be ahead of the curve and to put ourselves in a position where we're able to say, here are the guardrails so everybody can play fair. I've been meeting with fellow council members. So far I've met with 3 other council members and having conversations around that. Lots of things that we're always up to. It's a very busy time of year, and the budget will be coming now, in 2 weeks? 2 weeks from today? 2 weeks from tomorrow. Next 1 week.
Next week.
1 week from today. So I'm very anxious to see that. I encourage people to try and stay in the loop, to listen to our budget hearings, our 4 days of budget hearings where we go through the budget page by page, and also to come out and share your opinions on the budget. You know, obviously the big dollar items get most of the attention, but there's so many other things that we fund in that budget, like, you know, a few $100,000 to update culverts in a community to prevent flooding. You know, that's the type of thing that we do because of community feedback, and oftentimes it gets missed if we don't hear from you. So it's important to speak up and speak out about how you want our tax dollars to be spent. But that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Ms. Robert?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and I hope everyone had an enjoyable Easter. I've been pretty busy. March 16th to March 20th was actually Ag Literacy Week, so I was able to read The Dog Who Saved Bees to Old Post Road Elementary and Riverside Elementary. The children loved it. What's especially nice about this book, it's a true story from Harford County, and even more special that the woman it was written about actually is my legislative aid's neighbor. So it even got closer to our office. We had attended the Social Services Advisory Board meeting, the Commission on Disabilities meeting. On March 21st, I attended the Black Family Wellness Expo at Edgewood Middle School, and this will now become an annual event now that we have a new organization in town called Links, and that's one of their annual events. And then that evening attended the NAACP Freedom Gala. I attended the Chosen Women's History and Recognition Awards. That's always seems to be a nice event and honoring a lot of ages. I think the youngest was a second grader receiving an award, and the oldest was the legend who was 87 years old, for giving all their service in the community and to others. And then special grand opening for a friend, Melissa Driscoll, who opened her own hair moss products and holistic health in our community. So if you're into holistic health, it's a great opportunity. She's got a lot going on over there. And then I too attended the Beyond the Border. I thought it was amazing. I thought the conversation and learning our ties to Canada and how it all went. I think it was great to hear all the history surrounded, and even just in Harford County. And then today I had a meeting with the Harford microtransit stakeholders, and looking at the final picture of what that looks like. Now it's down to looking at money and hopefully finding a grant to cover this microtransit that will be dedicated to Edgewood and Aberdeen as the study pilot. So far, it looks like it's going to be very nice and cost effective for those taking it. It'll be $3 per trip with free transfer. And it looks like they're trying to say it'll be a 15-minute estimated time. So hopefully we can get this going sooner than later. It'll be disability friendly with wheelchair accessibility. And they're going to use the current vehicles that we have, so it's not paying out for any additional vehicles as well. And then coming up tomorrow night, April 8th, is Raising Healthy Kids in a Digital Age. It's going to be at Bel Air High School at 6:30, and it's going to train parents on understanding what their children are doing on the internet and on texting and social media. And then we have the Edgewoods Farmers Market finally starting back up on Sunday, April 12th. And according to 755, that we have, seems like we're gonna have more vendors than we had last year, so that'll be a really nice time, and that'll be at the American Legion in Edgewood. And finally, I have this nice vase of pinwheels. I started the CASA program in Cecil County, and I am familiar with Child Abuse Prevention Month, which is what April is. And so I know that there are some surrounding the courthouse and the sheriff's office. In Cecil, we started doing it that way, but we expanded throughout all the given towns and had people take them home. So I'm distributing them to the community. We had people take them home last night at the CAB meeting. And this is really a visible sign of protecting children and strengthening families. And this is the national symbol for Child Abuse Prevention Month. So feel free to take one tonight, and if you want, we have more in my office. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robert. Ms. Imhoff?
Good evening. Since our last legislative hearing, I was able to attend the Department of Emergency Services Awards. For those of you who have never been able to attend, it is a remarkable reminder of the quick response and the life-saving measures that so many of our firefighters and our paramedics do. They actually gave out awards and told stories about quick responses and life-saving measures that they were able to do for dozens of our community members. And what was even more remarkable is a lot of the people that they were able to save were actually able to be there and present when these firefighters and paramedics were receiving their awards. I was also able to participate in agricultural literacy event. I was able to participate at Youth Benefit Elementary School. April is Childhood Abuse Prevention Month. I was honored to support CASA's annual pinwheel planting ceremony on April 2nd. The blue pinwheels you'll see throughout our community, the circuit court, the sheriff's office, and along Main Street, and I believe that the Harford County Public Schools also put some out recently. I also had the opportunity to attend the open house and dedication for the Abingdon Fire Company's new Bell Camp station on April 4th. It was very well attended, very ceremonial, and a great addition to the community. I have to put in a plug. It's one thing to be able to build these remarkable fire stations. It's another thing to be able to staff them. At this time, our county heavily relies on volunteers, so for anybody who has the time and the bandwidth and the interest, I please encourage you to explore if volunteering at your local firehouse is in the cards for you. Upcoming events, Friday, April 10th is our annual Harford County Family and Trauma Conference, formerly known as Cherish the Child Symposium, held at Mountain Branch. It is a full-day conference where we will have tons of breakout sessions for social workers and clinicians. You can get continuing education credits. It is a great day to be around a whole bunch of other people who are dedicated to protecting the kids of our community. On April 11th, there are a ton of events, including the opening of our Bel Air Farmers Market. There's also an event called Empowered Planning Your Journey to Adulthood, held at Bel Air High School, which is for teens and young adults who have special education services and are growing into adulthood. And then there's also on April the 11th, a Run to Honor 5K Run Walk. This event honors surviving family members of fallen service members and begins and ends at the APG Shore Park. And then that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Imhoff. Mr. Jangiordano?
My Lord. So good evening, Council President. My office had proclamations for 194 individuals for University of Maryland Upper Chesapeake for 25 years. Those were the amount of people that have worked at Upper Chesapeake for 25 years. We had 3 individuals that have had 50 years of service, so everybody was pleasantly surprised and appreciate all the work they've done over the years. So originally it was Falston General, now Upper Chesapeake. Also did add Literacy Week, Red Pump, and Forest Lakes. Definitely learned that all those different products have something to do with bees, and you wouldn't even think a leather soccer ball does, but it does. So Harford County Emergency Service Awards did that, and then congratulations to Rich Truitt, did his retirement the other day, so wish him best of luck in his new venture. Beller's Farmers Market starts again, and also the Spring Nationals, which are speedboat races in Flying Point Park. They're going to be May 16th and 17th. The boats go about 160 miles an hour. They're still looking for some sponsors. They're going to have a Friday night party for all the sponsors, and then everything's going to be free to get in over the weekend for all the participants. They'll have music and everything, so if you get a chance, look at that. I also, Jacob, talk to you too about, I'm agreeing with you that with everything going on with people being doxxed, that may be time now that we don't have people say their addresses when they come up, especially if they write them out down there. And I'm also working on a bill to strengthen our charter amendment, and should have that at next week's meeting. And I think that's it. Thank you, Council President.
Not next week's meeting. Next week's the 14th.
I'm going to introduce it next week.
Okay. Mr. Riley?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment also on the address. Not opposed to it, but I would like to know what county they're from, because sometimes we get input, especially on television, from people that are outside our county that want to influence what goes on inside our county. Talking about influence inside our county, the General Asylum's at it again. I happen to be the MACO rep, and House Bill 1532, hopefully this dies somewhere along the pathway. Again, it's poor land use priorities down there in the General Assembly. They call it the session on energy. That's what they named this session down there. I think my wife's going to have to go through therapy when she gets back next week, at least for the next 90 days, to deal with the 90 days that she was down there. Crazy stuff coming out of Annapolis, but they're doing everything they can to kill things down there. The other thing I'd like to say is congratulations to Boy Scout Troop 265 in Jarrettsville. They celebrated 50 anniversaries, their 50th anniversary. And I want to tell you, again, I'm a big Boy Girl Scout lover. It's a great organization. It really does help our kids. And so anything that you do to support, when you see the young ladies out there with the cookies, they've been out there the last couple of weeks, I personally would appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. 17, business from the president. We'll start with the budget. The budget by charter mandate comes to us on the 15th. We're hoping to see the budget ordinance on the 14th so that we can introduce it that night. If not, we have to wait another week before we can introduce it. We will have our booklets on the 15th, I'm sure. Our first work session will start on the 23rd, so it doesn't give us a whole lot of time to prepare for it. I had the honor to attend and participate within the Chosen Women's History Month program. Always a great program. Attended briefly the Aberdeen Volunteer Fire Company banquet, the Aberdeen Rotary Bull Roast, which is a huge success with over 500 in attendance, and that money is used to give scholarships and promote other nonprofits across the county. The Abington Volunteer Fire Company ribbon cutting Yes, we depend heavily on our volunteers for sure, but that house is the first start of a part-time paid fire service. We have 30 volunteers that are being paid part-time to operate out of that house. I think with 2 or 3 shifts throughout the week, which is much needed because that sends units all across the county where needed. So appreciate that. Also, opening day for the Miracle League Field is Saturday, April 11th at 9 a.m. at Shucks Road Park. And then I want to express our deepest condolences to the Campbell family and friends due to the sudden passing of Mike Campbell. He's a U.S. Navy veteran, corpsman for the Navy. He is a life member of Susquehanna Hose Company, a life member of Post 47 American Legion Ambulance Corps. He was a paid firefighter for years at Bainbridge Naval Training Center and then also at Perry Point. He will absolutely be missed by a lot of his family and friends for sure. So with that, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.